Welcome back to another video here on the Feast Studio channel. You know, I've been customizing toys for about 13 years now, and along the way I've picked up useful skills like how to use brushes, how to mix my own paint, and it's even taught me the fundamentals of sculpting. And now we fast forward to today with the creation of Beta, from concept to design to the finished production piece. My goal was to give the artists flexibility to create their own characters. So to do that, I used simple shapes that I thought would be easy to paint. Today I want to expand on that idea by creating a custom beta using 3D parts that were designed to fit, giving it a unique look. So join us as we dive into 3D printing, post-processing, and even paint this really fun toy. The first thing we'll do is to hop over to the Feast Studio Patreon page. You'll want to join the print and paint tier. Here you'll find access to printables that I created along with some original characters. No matter which file you choose to download, the process is quite similar. Once the files are successfully downloaded, I'll open the software called Box. It's one of the few programs that is designed to format the files for the 3D printer. This is referred to as slicing. Box will take the model and create layers or slices. The printer will print them one at a time. But in order for it to be successful, we'll add supports to the pieces. They hold or support the model, as the build plate is suspended over liquid resin, which sits in a tray known as a vat. The build plate and vat come together. The LCD screen will expose the resin to UV lights. That'll create each layer as it builds up and produces a solid form. And if you set it up properly with the supports, you'll have a really good looking print. This part does take some practice, so do your research and don't be afraid to make mistakes. But if you do have a failed print, be sure to clean that resin tray. You don't want to leave any dried pieces of resin when you go to print your next print. That could lead to some problems with your LCD screen, and at the very least, you'll make a big mess. When we're finished adding the supports to each piece, it's time to save the files into a folder, so we can transfer them into the USB stick for the printer to read. Now let's add our resin to the clean tank, and remember to tighten it down along with the build plate. And it's time to print. Good luck. Five hours later, and we successfully printed our first beta kit. Oh yeah, and this Patreon exclusive Cyberdog. Now we can get ready for post-processing, or cleaning all the parts. To do that, I definitely make sure I wear gloves and a mask. This stuff can be really gross. I use an ultrasonic cleaner filled with isopropyl alcohol. This is designed to agitate and clean the prints. Typically, it only needs a few minutes. And when it's done, I'll separate the supports that we created and scrub them down with a toothbrush until I feel like all the resin's cleaned off. I'll use that same machine to cure the parts. It has a strip of UV lights and an acrylic plate that rotates. And in just a matter of minutes, the parts are cured and ready to sand. So let's jam through it. Our focus is the areas where the supports met the design. These areas need to be sanded down. I'm using a 220 grit sandpaper and some fine sanding sponges. This will get it really smooth. Once they're finished, we'll move on to spraying. I like to attach the parts to a wooden dowel or a bamboo stick. I'll do that by using a drill and some bits to get the right fitment. Next, we're going to move on to spraying the primer. There are a few different options you can choose from, whether it be out of an airbrush, spray can, or a larger spray gun. Now, since I don't have a larger spray gun here, I'm going to go with using a spray can. Typically, I like to spray every piece and wait about 15 minutes and then give it a second coat. And then I'll let that dry for another 24 hours. You might notice when you spray the primer, there might be little imperfections that you still might want to go over. If that's the case, I'll spend more time sanding and then go over it with the primer once again. And if it's looking really good, we can move on to spraying some base colors. Now for this project, I'm going to look online for some references to give me some ideas. The internet is just full of so many talented artists with so many cool creative projects. So don't be afraid to use some references. This will help give you some creative thoughts of how to get going on what you might want to paint. I'm going to jump into Procreate, and this will give me another idea of how I want to lay it down on my actual piece. To start, I'll move the model around and capture some screenshots of each side, and I'll use them as a template. One color I was thinking about using in the design was teal. I just love the way I used it as a glow effect in the Thief project. I tried adding some dark gray and purple, but I just wasn't feeling it. So then I tried using a color that I rarely use, yellow. It has this slight touch of orange that to me screams robot. And then I tried messing around with the gray fade to each character and played with the faces. And this is what I came up with for the base colors. I'm not too sure how I feel about it. Now before we spray the yellow base paint, I need to see how these 3D pieces fit on beta. And I'm really excited because this is the first design to go over this factory vinyl toy. So let's see how it looks. If you have a blow dryer, now's a great time to grab it. Be careful, but you can slowly warm up the vinyl toy to where it can come apart. It doesn't take that much heat. And now we get to see the Cyber Dude and dog finally side by side. Now for this design, I don't want the helmet and the head to be loose, and I think it'll be okay if the body and the legs are one piece. So I'm going to glue them together using super glue. And I just need to spray these pieces with primer, because if I don't and I spray the yellow, the tone of the paint won't match. And when that's dry, I can finally spray the base color. I've shared some airbrushing advice in previous videos, but if it's something you want me to talk more about, please leave a comment and let me know what you'd like to know. It took about 3 coats to get the color to a point where I was happy with it. So I'll let them sit overnight and I'll be back the next day to finish them. It's time. Everything's dried and sitting right behind me. While I was waiting, I was thinking about how I would finish this piece. And there's going to be some changes. First off, the yellow is a little too yellow for me. Secondly, rather than spraying the faces and all the parts teal, I'm going to try something different. I think I'm going to try some grunge and maybe some graffiti. It just feels like the perfect piece to do that. I'm a little nervous, but let's get started. I decided to change the base color to orange. Luckily, it'll paint over the yellow really easily. Now I'm starting to add some more detail. I decided to use this light shade of gray because I feel like it really goes well with the orange. I just love how vibrant these colors look together. It really looks different from what I am used to painting. Once it dries, I can get a little more creative. Moving forward, I'm going to play around with adding tags to the bots. And to do that, I'm going to use paint markers like I did in my older beta video. If you haven't checked that one out, that was my first time using paint markers on a toy, and I learned so much. Now I can give these bots a decayed look. I'll start by scratching up the paint using a fine sanding sponge. And I'll use a sepia and a burnt umber color to wash the base. This will make them look worn like they've been around for years. Now to paint the faces and chest plate. So what I'm thinking is I'll just paint the detail using white paint, and then I'll use my airbrush. If I spray over those areas using color, it might just give it that glow look. Not bad. Now we can get these bots assembled. I'm just about finished. If any of you want to try this, beta is now online and you'll find the printables on Patreon. These projects and videos take so long to make, so thank you for still watching. And every time I put together a video, I learn so much along the way. And I know what I make is very unique, so I'm hoping it does well on YouTube. Let me know what you think. Let's move on to the big reveal, and I'll catch you in the next video. Enjoy the finished look at the tech heads.